Going all the way back to 1990, one, I wasn't born yet, and two, that was the release year of what is now the iconic Lotto Stadio line. And believe it or not, once upon a time, Lotto was an elite football boot brand, and they've been making some sneaky good football boots as of late. Inside this box, I have an OG remake of a classic Lotto Stadio model that also happens to be made in Italy, something that we see very rarely these days, even with high-end football boots. So here they are. You might remember this particular football boot. It is an iconic Lotto Stadio model. This particular variation coming out originally in 2005, retailing for $220 US. So basically what this is a one-to-one remake of a 15-year-old football boot that's an absolute classic, effectively an Italian version of a Coppa Mondiale that really reminds me of my childhood. And don't get me wrong, when I was a teenager and this was a current model, I wasn't super interested in them, but looking back, hindsight being 2020, which that's not a saying that's aged very well, has it? I absolutely love these, and unlike so many football boots that we get these days, they're constantly coming out. This is a boot with a lot of character. So feel free to leave your, oh my gosh, those are the ugliest football boots I've ever seen and I would never wear those in a million year comments and click off the video. But for those of you with some class that want to learn a little bit more about what was desirable in a pair of football boots just 15 years ago, stick around, watch the entire video. We'll go over all the tech specs and of course take a look at how they fit and feel on feet, because personally, I think these are pretty cool. If you guys are interested in a pair for yourself, they are actually available now for $220, but with an SR4U coupon code, you can get them for a little bit less. Check out the very first link down below. That's going to take you to the review page on my website. There'll also be a little pop-up in the corner of the screen. As always, if you guys do end up enjoying this video and would like to continue seeing some variety in the football boots that I review, stuff like this, don't forget to support this one with a like. And if you are new here watching for the first time and don't want to miss out on weekly content on everything football boots, make sure you hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when the next new video goes live. Really quickly, I just want to go over the extras because it comes in a very cool box. You can see it's black in color, has the Stadio logo there on the front, and then what kind of looks like a plaid pattern, but if you look a little bit more closely, it's the Lotto logo repeating itself. Pretty cool pattern. I'd like to see that on a pair of football boots. It says made in Italy pretty much on every side of the box. And on the underside of the lid, you can see it has this stadium lighting with the big screen that says Lotto Stadio OG, the legend is back. They don't include a string bag, but they do include this little pamphlet right here that when you open it up, it gives you a complete history of every single generation of Lotto Stadio, which it's completely meaningless, but I think this is really cool. Now, as for the boots themselves, unlike so many football boots that I feature on this channel, the list of tech specs for these is significantly shorter, with I think one of the most important technical features being the construction. The fact that these are made in Italy is something we don't see all that often anymore. Obviously, one of the main reasons why so many people love the Coppa Mondiale and the quality is so excellent is because they're still made in Germany. And granted, the Coppas are cheaper than this, but I have to admit that the quality of these does seem to be a step above the classic Coppa Mondiale, and even at $220, while that's not inexpensive, it's not crazy for a top-end football boot in 2020, especially given the quality of the kangaroo leather, which is phenomenal. I would say that it's better than what you're gonna find on the Coppa Mondiale, and really just classic Italian. Lotto and a lot of Italian brands once upon a time were so popular because leather boots were king, and they had the best leather boots for a long time, according to a lot of people. Of course, people have different opinions, but in general, these are just super soft. It's the perfect thickness in terms of giving you that nice soft padded feel, but without being overly bulky. The fold over flap tongue in this signature neon green for the Lotto brand is also entirely made out of leather, which I really like across the top of the foot. And then the only parts you're going to find in synthetic are the little strips right here on the back of the heel where you have this Lotto branding, as well as this little top piece of the heel that's also in a synthetic material, basically because it doesn't need to be leather. What is interesting to point out is the look of this boot, because a signature of the Lotto Stadio was for a very long time the black and green. And unlike now, where we get new colorways of football boots about every 7 minutes, once upon a time, you would have one generation of football boots for 2, 3, 4, sometimes even 5 years. And it became this thing where whatever you launched your football boot in, as far as a colorway is concerned, that would become synonymous with that particular boot, and in some cases, that particular brand. And for a very long time, the signature look of the Lotto brand was a black boot with these bright lime green accents, which, as you can see, this definitely has. It's great for somebody that wants to be a referee, but with a little bit more flair. It's just a joke, calm down. The boots obviously have a central lacing system with a regular tongue, something that we don't see all that often in football boots anymore. You can see the underside of the tongue has this really nice patch with the Lotto Stadio branding, and it also does say made in Italy, folded over, and it's lime green in color, which is very cool. A nice little detail is that this is embroidered on the tongue. It also folds over really nicely and stays in place, unlike a pair of Copa Mundials that require some working in order to get the tongue to stay down. And I also really appreciate the detail of going for green stitching on the green part of the tongue. So there's no real contrast there, it kind of all blends in. I just really like that. Also, the Lotto logos have this slightly kind of jelly holographic type finish to them. Very cool. Again, super classic from 15 years ago. A lot of football boots just had this general appearance. Nice detailing with the Italian flag kind of ribbon on either side of the heel as well. Nonetheless, inside the boot, you're gonna find that it does feature a synthetic leather heel liner, which is not the most premium, admittedly. It's pretty much the same type of material you're gonna find on a classic Copa Mundial, but it's very period correct for what a lot of football boots had at that point in time. Not a ton of padding back there though, which again, pretty normal for football boots from this period. And then the insole, that's fully removable, and it's very similar to a lot of Lotto boots in that it has this mesh liner on top. It's made from a single layer of this black foam, and then they glue on this relatively thick layer of blue foam directly under your heel, where you can totally feel exactly this shape, especially when the boots are brand new. Once you break them in a little bit, it's not such a big deal, but that is your additional heel cushioning technology. Moving to the base, you're going to find a sole plate and stud pattern that definitely has a very traditional look. Again, to touch on build quality, notice the rivet that's not there. Oh my gosh. I totally didn't notice this until now, but if you look here on the right boot, there is supposed to be a rivet because there's a spot for a rivet to go, but if you look at my left boot, it does in fact have the rivet. So it would appear that on my right boot, they forgot the rivet somehow, which I guess is not so great in terms of overall build quality, but I'm not too worried about them breaking. Well, at least people can't say that Lotto paid me to say nice things, because clearly they didn't. Something that you pretty much never see anymore is the sole plate physically being stitched to the upper, which you can see they've done in nylon all the way through the forefoot and toe box on both sides, which basically means that if this sole plate is going to separate from the upper, you literally have to wear a hole through the kangaroo leather, which is extremely unlikely to happen, which effectively means that this is a football boot that is built to last. They definitely had durability in mind. The sole plate is classic Lotto in terms of featuring their Punto Flex technology, which really doesn't mean all that much. It's kind of just like a thinned out strip in the sole plate through the forefoot that allows for a little bit more natural flexibility. Other than that, you're not going to notice anything special about the way that this sole plate feels. The plastic is very high quality, definitely more modern than what you're going to find on a pair of classic Copa Mundials. It definitely looks more modern. And then they have this, which is what they call shock off in the heel, where this is actually a little bit of a rubbery insert that they've just pretty much slotted in what is a hole between the heel studs. I'm not exactly sure if that physically does anything or if the shock off technology is a little insert that I showed you underneath the heel of the insole. Again, it's one of those things that was a technology at the time, but you're not going to notice anything special about that in particular when wearing these boots. And then as far as the stud pattern is concerned, this is of course the FG layout. It is all conical studs. Pretty straightforward in terms of overall layout. The one thing that is a little bit unique though, is you can see on the tips of the studs, especially when they're brand new like this, they have this like a rough texture is the best way for me to describe it. That really isn't going to do anything in terms of improving the traction of the football boots, but it is an interesting design quirk of the Lotto Stadio. Which brings us to the weight of the Lotto Stadio, and over the last 15 years, not only have boots trended away from leather uppers, for the most part, there's still leather boots around, but they've definitely trended towards being lighter and lighter, something that this isn't necessarily it's not light. So I'm gonna weigh them for you today in real time, the one with the rivet, because I'm assuming that adds at least a little bit of weight. And in a size 9.5 US, you can see that these Stadios weigh in at 10.5 ounces, the equivalent of 298 grams. So to put things into perspective, a lot of high-end boots that are considered to be light are gonna be right around the 200 gram mark. So these are literally 33% heavier than the vast majority of top-end boots these days. And because they are complete leather, they're gonna absorb a decent amount of water if you use them in the wet as well. And they'll probably swell to 12 or 13 ounces. So if you're looking for that super lightweight feel on your feet, these are not going to provide that, but you probably already knew that. Now on feet, these are going to split opinions in terms of how they look. It's obviously a very classic football boot design that does look significantly bulkier than a lot of the modern stuff. So you're either gonna love it or hate it. There's a few things to note here. I have swapped the laces on the right boot for some wide green reflective SR4U replacement laces, not just because I know there's people that are gonna like to see it with the green accent, which does admittedly look quite cool. Those are also available at sr4ulaces.com, by the way, but because typical of a lot of old school boots, the black laces, which I personally prefer the look of, are extremely long, which is why I've done the classic wrap underneath across the midfoot technique that you pretty much don't have to do on football boots anymore. But it does actually make the boot, because it's so wide and there's not a lot of structure to the leather, feel a little bit more, I guess, secure through the midfoot of the boot. So this is actually not a bad tactic, even though I always hated doing this with any football boots that I had super long laces. Also, I am wearing them with some matching green Pure Grip socks, which are the most affordable grip socks on the market, available at puregripsocks.com. They're available in a variety of different colors for just $14.99 a pair. If you're interested in some, first link down below. Definitely a helpful tool to have if you plan on wearing a football boot like this, because it does have a wider and, dare I say, sloppier fit than what you're gonna find with a lot of modern stuff. There is obviously crazy softness and flexibility from the kangaroo leather. They're very comfortable in that regard, but in terms of structure when pushing off and just moving in general, they don't have that super secure kind of responsive sensation that more modern boots, including leather ones, tend to have. This is still a very old school way of shaping a football boot where they're very, very wide and there's just a lot of extra volume. Not to the point where I would say that they fit poorly, but this is definitely one of those football boots, like a lot of old leather boots. You want to buy them as snug as possible and just allow the leather to stretch to your feet. So there is somewhat of a break-in process. Everything feels good. The heel liner could do with a little bit more padding. I don't like the sensation of that little blue piece of foam under the heel. You can literally feel the exact oval shape as you're stood on top of it, but that's just when they're brand new. It goes away as you break them in. But in terms of width and overall fit, these are very wide. If you have wide feet, you're gonna be really happy with these. If you have really narrow feet, I would probably stay far away, but if you're interested in a boot like this, you probably know what to expect anyways. And then as far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing these in my usual size 9.5 US, and honestly, I could probably get away with wearing them in a 9, and long term, that would probably end up being better given how much these do actually stretch once you start to wear them. If you buy them too big, they're going to stretch, and they're going to stretch too much to the point where they're just going to feel overly sloppy. So similar to a pair of Copas, you want to get them as snug as possible. So for me personally, my recommendation with these would actually be to go down half a size in order to get the best fit, not necessarily out of the box because they might feel a little bit too tight, but as you wear them in, that leather is going to stretch and you're going to get a perfect fit. So in conclusion, can I recommend a 15-year-old Lotto Stadio remake? And I think the answer to that question is yes, if you're after a 15-year-old Lotto Stadio remake. I don't think that Lotto making this boot was an attempt at drawing in the younger generation to play in classic Stadio models. I'm sure there's some younger people that would love to wear a football boot that is the same age or older than they are, and if that's you, you're really cool. But I think that this is a football boot that appeals more so to collectors and people that have been around a little bit longer and would like the same boots that they wore during their childhood or their teenage years, or even as a young adult, depending on how old you are. And in terms of what you get for the money, obviously if you buy a pair, check them for rivets because you might be missing one. But for 220 bucks, as an alternative to a Copa Mundial that I think has significantly more style. This is definitely the boot nerd's choice over a classic Copa. Not to say that a Copa isn't a boot nerd's choice at this point in time, but it's just a really cool option, and I'm glad that Lotto makes it. Anyways, guys, that's it for my review. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to support it with a like. Again, if you're interested in a pair of Stadios for yourself, you can click the first link down below. That's going to take you to the review page on my website, where you'll find Buy It Now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes, where you'll be able to pick these up below their normal retail price. If you have any questions, as always, leave them down below in the comment section, and I'll do my best to get an answer out to you. If you're not subscribed to the channel already, make sure you hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when the next new video goes live. You can find all my social media information linked down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.